Welcome to another week of dysfunction. Here's Jackie and Matt.
There's actually a question I wanted to ask you before we officially started.
Yeah.
And before she came too, because we have to do introductions and all that.
Sure.
So yesterday, let me preface this. TikTok, there's a huge new trend going on, and it's put a picture of your crush next to your significant other and see how similar they are. And usually the significant other is the
opposite,
the person you end up marrying, right?
Yeah.
And it ends up being the exact same person you had a crush on, right? So some people have cartoons on there. Some people have whatever crush they had as a kid, their first true crush, and it matches usually their significant other at the time. So who was your first true crush? From what you remember as a kid? From
what I remember, it was either Jessica Alba or the girl from The Girl Next Door. What's her name? It was
I don't know.
No, I know her name. It's, God damn it. Now I'm gonna have to Google it. Eliza Light. It starts with an L. Oh, Alicia Cuthbert. There you go.
Alicia Cuthbert. No, now I need to see this person. Alicia, A? No,
with an E.
Oh, Alicia
Cuthbert. C-U-T-H.
Oh, first person that came up.
On The Girl Next Door. Look at her.
I could see you being.
15 years ago.
I could see you being with a girl like that.
Yeah, that's kind of been my downfall, is these ones. So I.
Well, why is that a downfall?
No, it's just generally I have not had experience with hot blondes. I don't know.
Okay, now you're offending your future wife.
Oh, I'm sure I am. I hope she listens to this. Hi, baby. I miss you.
You're such a creep.
I know.
She's going to look back at this and listen to this, and she's going to be like, what a creep.
I know. She's probably 17 right now, too.
Ew.
I know.
Why does she have to be younger?
Oh, just to creep you out. That's the whole point of this is comedy.
No.
Oh, shit.
I do not condone pedophilia.
No, it's not pedophilia. I'm not going to meet her for 12 years. Come on.
So that's still it. That's still, I understand age is not a thing.
Social norms is half your age plus 7.
Half your age plus 7?
Uh-huh.
So
socially acceptable.
23. So half of 23. Well, I'll be 22 on Sunday.
It's 11 and a half plus 7.
18 is my norm?
That's the minimum you can date. And then the oldest you can date is, let's see. You minus 7 would be 16 times 2 is 32. So you could date all the way up to 32.
But one of the things that I did realize yesterday was I don't have a physical type. So, when I was little, everyone talked about, your blueprints. And we say blueprints because that's what it translates to English.
What are your blueprints? I'm excited.
My imaginary blueprints was a personality and not a physical person. Okay. And then obviously when I got older, once I turned 13, 14, I added a physical person to it, but it was only personality. And it was always the awkward, on the spectrum type of guy that was really smart that could provide in some way.
What you got.
Yeah, I know.
That's pretty fucking awesome.
And then my physical was Ariel's prince.
Oh,
brown
shit.
hair, blue-eyed.
Yep.
And I date, that's a majority of what I date. And if I don't date that, it's usually a musician.
Wow. Nice pull there. So, are you still dating men? Is it a possibility?
Yes or no. Yes, it's a possibility.
Okay.
But I'm attracted to a specific personality, and I didn't realize this till yesterday. I'm I don't have a crush, because I kept trying to think of this, who was my childhood crush? Because I asked Grayson, obviously. I forgot who he said, but she looks similar enough to me to be oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, I want to know who that is.
I know, I have to ask him again.
Okay.
But the actual, when I was thinking about mine, I couldn't think of anyone because I just had characters that I associated well with, the guy from Ender's Game. I like Eddie
Redmayne. from Les Mis.
I like the very interesting, awkward, super smart guy
that could be in the Spice
no one
Girls.
really pays attention to. That doesn't know that they're attractive, but they're attractive. I
love that about people when they I think a lot of people like that. The hot but they don't know they're hot thing.
But also hotness is relative to.
Yeah, of course. It's specific to every person. Yeah. Did you were you an outcast in high school?
I was for a little bit, but for the most part, I had the same friends throughout middle school, high school. They moved with me. I dated the hottest guy in our class.
Oh, God.
Him and I were on and off from elementary school to like college. Very attractive. All my friends were attractive, but they were like Latin. So we were like the Latin group with like very attractive white boyfriends.
Nice.
So yeah, one was from Argentina. I'm Colombian technically. Another Colombian, Spain and Venezuela, and they're still very attractive women. I just don't talk to them anymore.
Oh, word. Did you see my videos from the casino?
No, I didn't.
What?
I did have time yesterday. I don't understand casino stuff. I don't know why people do it, but I know you won a lot of money, which is congratulations.
Well, I've never done that before, so thank you. It was all because I think it was all due to karma. I lost money. Some dude sat down to the left of me in a blackjack table, and because of COVID, there's only like 3 people allowed at a table. So dude sat down to the left of me, and he drew like the only 10 left in the deck to make the dealer not bust and beat me in one hand. He effectively stole like $150 from me. And I was like, what the fuck? So I went outside to smoke. And as I was smoking, this like girl who was obviously not doing well, she like, I don't want to say rolled over, but essentially rolled over and was like, do you have like $1? And I was like, what are you trying to get with that $1? Because I don't think $1 is going to help you here. And she was like, well, I just need to eat. And I was like, I will buy you dinner. And so I bought her food, and then I was sitting talking to her, and she was telling me the story. She was definitely high on drugs, but she was pregnant. She had triplets.
Wait, she was high on drugs and pregnant. That was a problematic sentence already. I don't like her.
I know. I don't like her either, but that's not the point. The point is I bought her dinner, listened to her sob story for a minute, and then gave her the, like, I don't know, what, 20 or something, just figure out a way to get back home. And then I walked inside and I won $850 immediately, like within a minute.
That's karma.
I think so. I hope she gets to where she's going. And I hope she knocks the shit off too.
Well, my thing with women who are in situations like that, I feel bad for them. They need help. I wish there was like programs to help them.
Yeah.
But what pisses me off, someone like me who worked so hard to have a child, that waited years, had 5 miscarriages, had to go through hell just to have my daughter.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. And women like that, and I don't know her. I don't know what situation she's in, but women like that can easily pop out a child with no reasoning, just cause, and it's easy for them. And then they put a child in the world in a situation like that, and it just makes me eat.
I swear to God, drugs plus poor plus low IQ equals fertility. I don't know how it works.
Dude, that's what I'm saying.
I know, it's kind of crazy, but I forgot the big part of the story was she was hitchhiking towards New Mexico from
She's gonna die.
From San Bernardino. I'm aware.
Murder. I'm gonna hear her murder story
probably
on my podcast that I love to listen to. Well, welcome, Darya.
Hi, Darya.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Jackie.
Nice to meet you as well.
Am I supposed to call you doctor?
No, you're good. You can just call me Darya.
Good.
Doctor.
You know, well, I call everyone doctor, and it stopped making like me laugh so hard now that everyone's wearing a fucking surgeon's mask.
Wait, why do you? Okay.
It's from the Muppets movie. Let's move forward.
I was thinking Doctor Who.
No,
we're on totally different pages here.
I watch good shows.
Excuse you, Doctor Who.
It's not.
Well, anyway. Thank you guys for listening, and we're welcoming Darya. Now I can't say your name. I apologize.
Darya.
Got it.
Darya.
La, la, la.
Darya. She is our new sex therapist guest here today. And we will be making her very uncomfortable with our conversations because I'm very uncomfortable to ask these questions with Matt around.
Yep, mouth noises.
Awesome. Well, I love uncomfortable, so let's go.
Oh, no.
Me too.
All right. So let me first and foremost, I'll be honest with you guys. So I am a podcast virgin. So
Me too.
No, you're not, Matt. We started one.
We haven't, we're like 4 months in. Anyways.
So this will be my first time like doing like a interview when I'm the one being interviewed. I've done one before where I was the interviewee, but yeah, so I'm kind of excited for this.
Good.
I thought it would be, just a great opportunity to kind of stretch a little bit. Plus, like, Matt, when you called, like you were so engaging that I was like, you know what, like this is an awesome, awesome opportunity here. Plus, like, I just couldn't say no,
I appreciate that. Really, that's
Thank you so much.
Very nice compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's maybe just, I think what would be helpful, like just having a background, I think would be helpful as far as like, my training, like what even brought me to be a sex therapist, because it was kind of a little bit of a windy road for me. It wasn't just like I jumped right into it or anything like that.
Yes, we want to hear your background. We want to hear your accolades.
Origin story.
Kind of boost yourself up a little bit here.
Perfect. Yeah, because I don't think any 5-year-old wakes up and is like, I'm going to be a sex therapist,
I thought I was going to be a forensic anthropologist when I was 5. I don't know about you, but I almost did it.
I told my parents I was going to be a proctologist when I was 3.
What is that?
It's a guy who works on men's butts. It's like a prostate doctor.
You're not gay?
I'm not gay.
Okay, sure.
I didn't know what it meant, but they like telling that story.
Well, there you go. Well, okay. Well, maybe you guys are a little bit more advanced than me when I was 5 years old then. That's okay. So as far as just my background, so ethnically I'm Ukrainian, and I was actually born and raised in Germany.
Matt, stop.
Are you really? That's awesome.
No, he's not.
I'm Ukrainian. Keep going.
So, but yeah, I was born and raised in Germany. But even from a young age, I was just exposed to a lot of really cool things. I grew up like literally next to an old castle. I would explore like the grounds every day, and just beautiful art, music, culture, everything kind of surrounding me. And even there, like it's so interesting over in other places like Europe, like they talk about the body very freely. It's never something that's really taboo. And so one thing I noticed when I first moved here, so I moved here around the age 11. One thing I noticed right away is like just kind of how different it was in terms of like just shame around the body in general. So that's kind of my first little tick that something was different and culturally speaking. But then from there, so I went through like kind of a rough transition trying to learn the language because I didn't know a word of English when I moved here.
Wait, you're not native?
I'm not native.
Wow.
So it took me about like a couple years before I was very comfortable in English. And so through that process, so kind of going back to why I even picked being a therapist, I just experienced a lot of like those not fitting in feelings. Can you imagine doing that when you're 11 and you don't know the language,
No.
And so I was always kind of looking for those kids that like sat by themselves or who were kind of on the outside fringes. And those were my people,
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like my start of just people would turn to me naturally, like for comfort, support, advice. The same thing like would happen like with my mom, with other friends I had. And so eventually I got to a point where I was like, I think I'd really like to be a therapist because I would like to actually know a little bit more about what I'm talking about when people are turning to me.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my little tick that I wanted to go into this field. And then I had a high school psychology class, which I loved. It really like opened my eyes to the world of therapy. And besides that, so like I had dropped out of some of my math classes. I finally discovered, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I have dyscalculia, which is
I've heard of that.
What is that? No, I haven't. What is that?
So dyscalculia is the math version of dyslexia. So I've always noticed like I'm horrible at math, and it has a lot of other tendencies too, which are funny. Like I still, like, this is embarrassing, but to this day can't tell my right from my left. And it's really dyscalculia.
I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's
huge.
totally a thing. So, but what I discovered by taking this psychology class was that I love science. Like I really excel in science, but I'm horrible at math. So it's like, well, hello, social science and mental health, right?
Yeah.
So I went through that kind of learning experience. Well, background as far as like my undergrad and all that. So I'm LDS, and I went to BYU as an undergrad, which by nature is extremely conservative. I am. Yeah.
You can't ask these questions.
Why not?
You can, just no problem.
Okay.
So,
because we don't know her. She's not a personal friend of ours.
Doesn't matter. You can ask what her religion is.
yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
So yeah, so I ended up going to this very, very conservative, to BYU in Utah, and that's where I got my undergrad in psychology. And so, like, I learned a lot of different ideas. There were some classes that I had that really opened my eyes to, what therapy entailed, human sexuality, things like that.
At BYU?
At BYU, yeah, where they started talking about it. But, one thing that I did notice is, like, there is kind of we talk about it within members of the church. They talk about there's the culture of the church as well as like kind of the doctrine of the church, and the two are pretty different when it comes to like expression.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. So with the culture of it, of course, I started noticing there's just so much shame around sexuality, right? So much shame, so much
Catholics too.
Yeah, I heard you mention that a little bit before, so I was like, yeah, that's right up my alley there too.
Good.
So then for my master's, though, I went to ASU, which is extremely like the opposite of BYU, right? So I think I kind of did that on purpose because I wanted to have that opposite experience. I wanted to be able to, just really emerge myself, find out my biases, and be able to confront those biases. And I did. And even to this day, like when I do therapy, I don't advertise like as an LDS therapist or a Mormon therapist, because I really truly enjoy like working with just a really diverse clientele, And
I wonder if, do you think does the fact that you are an LDS or in the church, does that come out in your, I guess, recommendations and or like advice?
Does it limit you in any way?
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you.
That's an awesome question. I feel like if anything, it actually kind of does the opposite for me. For me, I think it helps me better relate to people who experience like high degrees of religious shame.
Oh,
that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So I find it actually as an asset. And like I said, so I do very much surround myself with people who have different ideas from myself. And that's kind of where I'm more comfortable. I'm not as comfortable in situations where like everybody thinks alike, because I feel like there's something inauthentic about that.
No, I agree. So do you work with people, like, for example, my husband and I are in an open marriage. Do you work with people similar to us? And is that affected by any of your beliefs?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful question. So yes, I do. And I don't feel it is affected because, like I said, I was telling Matt a little bit, I'm probably more so just progressive in my views in terms of, like, I really like to explore the uncomfortable. I like to delve into it. There's that saying of, like, fake it till you make it, which I'm not a fan of.
Worked.
Yeah, right. Well, I like the phrase, the opposite of that, which is really like, face it till you make it, right? To face it till you make it, to me, is like you find those parts of you that need growth, that need exploration, and you kind of dive into them, lean into them, so to say. So yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, I absolutely love working with people who have, a variety of different configurations in their relationships. because the underlying work that goes with it, surprisingly, is super similar to like the traditional configurations as well, because it still relies on heavy underpinnings of trust, right?
Whoa.
And structure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and how does your church view this? So you are
I'm sure it's a no-no.
How do I say this? Within a church, they're very, how do I say this without offending people?
No, don't just offend people. That's the point.
Well, they're very, like, they look down on people who are progressive in any way.
Yeah.
There's like different branches within the Mormon church, which I've seen because I have friends that are Mormon.
Yeah.
And there's like the progressive types, they're the original, and there's like these three branches that I recognize. And how do they stop, man. I say that word apparently very weird. But how does that affect you? Are they do they look down on you in any way? Do you see it when you participate in any group activities within your church? Is that a problem for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So, I mean, for me, it's not a problem because I've come to a place within myself where I feel like I have a high level of integrity in the relationship I have within myself. So, you know, when somebody, you know, doesn't agree or has like kind of more that judgmental view or whatever, if anything, I actually find it kind of flattering because it means I'm probably expanding their horizons a little bit. So to me, it's really not a problem. And I am finding kind of what you're talking about. There's different branches, right, in terms of like where people are at within their belief system, within their relationship to themselves. And I do find there's a lot of great work nowadays that is expansive in the sense where it's more about finding how you relate to the doctrine rather than just kind of blindly following. For instance, one of the therapists I follow very closely that I'm a huge fan of is Dr. Finlayson Fife.
Okay.
And she does some amazing work. She's a sex therapist as well. And she does some fantastic work around kind of debunking the culture of the belief system and focusing more on, you know, again, personal integrity.
And she's also a member of the church?
She is, okay. Yeah.
Dr. what, Finley?
Dr. Finlayson Fife.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So she's a great one to kind of turn to when it comes to kind of, you know, how do you blend the two? How do you blend your belief system with integrity as well? So, yeah.
What age did you join the church, if you don't mind?
This has turned into a church thing.
I like it, though. It actually is going to add a whole, like, other layer to it. Which
I think it'll be good. Yeah. So I joined when I was 8, and I joined in Germany. So
whoa.
Was this your choice or was this your family's
Indoctrination.
choice?
No, it was actually my choice. I was born and raised Catholic / Russian Orthodox because remember I'm Ukrainian. So I grew up in that religion. Yeah, it was very much frowned upon, you know, because I also went to a school that was a religious school in Germany and, you know, basically was told that, you know, I was going to go to hell for converting and, you know, all the things that you're told when you're an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. Your soul's going to spend eternity in hell. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. So I went through that process. And surprisingly, I'm really like proud of like my mom for letting me do that. So she was a single parent at the time. And I'm really proud of her for allowing me to make that choice, like on my own, you know. Because it was something I really wanted for myself. And she didn't end up joining until about 6 years later herself.
Wait, you were alone in this choice?
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it was just something like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I really wanted that for myself.
Divine intervention.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think it was definitely needed in that time of my life. Who knows where I would have ended up.
Yeah, seriously.
Your views on sex wasn't changed at all with your beliefs because from what I understand, you can't have sex before marriage.
Right.
Mormons tend to get married younger and divorced faster because they rush into the marriage because you can't touch. There's like a bunch of not everyone's like this. Not every partnership is like this, but that's like the consensus of Mormonism. Is Mormonism a word?
doctrine of Mormonism. Yeah, sure. I like
Oh,
Mormonism.
Yeah. So the doctrine of the church or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so I think I was kind of set apart from that just by nature of where I grew up. I think that really helped in that sense where I didn't inherit like the shame around sexuality. Because again, like when I was born, where I was raised, the body was on constant display and it wasn't sexual. It was actually seen as something very functional, something beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and over there, like, it doesn't matter what shape or size you are, they celebrate the body. And it's something that's very just, I don't know, like, it's just viewed so differently. So,
well, here in America, it is viewed very differently.
Oh, it is
I've
sold.
noticed that
It is
too.
sold as.
yes.
Yeah. Bad.
So I think, like, I'm really grateful I came into the States with that view, you know, because I feel like that really helped me to stay a little bit unscathed from the, you know, more Puritan view that's more inherent here.
It's interesting.
Okay.
I have a question, and this is going to be so dumb, but Mormons generally, the rule is no sex before marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a procreation thing, or is this a stop on pleasure thing? Like, can you have recreational sex as far as the rule book goes once you're married, or is it only for the purpose of procreation?
Oh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a dumb question. So no. Yeah. So with that one, yeah, of course. So I think that is the consensus. Like the belief is like, okay, this is only something you do for procreation. But no, I definitely have experienced and seen through a lot of the work people are doing nowadays. Like that stance is super outdated.
Oh, good.
Right?
Cool.
Yeah. No, like it's very much about recreation, connection, you know, emotional intimacy. Like all those aspects are a huge factor. I would say nowadays for most people.
Interesting.
Okay. So are you guys ready to jump into some of the questions that we've prepared for?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Awesome.
I think we're only going to get through one of them.
I don't know which one to start with. No, I have them. I just don't know what. Okay, no, my biggest one. How to deal with a partner that has gone through rape or sexual manipulation for both males and females. Like, say your significant other has been raped and it has an issue when you're preparing to have sex. And when I say prepare, like for example, I've been raped and I've talked about it on the podcast, and I get very jumpy right before anyone touches me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll like push them away. Like, I don't mean to. Obviously, I want to have sex. Otherwise, I wouldn't have consented. But I have like bodily, like involuntary pushing their hands or like kind of making them uncomfortable, like telling them physically no with my body. Me saying yes to them. How do you overcome that within a relationship or outside of a relationship? And how do you deal with a partner that has gone through the same and not willing to deal with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, well, first and foremost, you know, I'm sorry you had that experience. I just want to kind of recognize, like, it's so unfortunate when somebody has to go through that, and how common, unfortunately, it is, you know, that somebody goes through those types of experiences.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I've worked with many clients who have one or even both partners who've experienced similar types of things. Obviously, there's, you know, other things too, as far as, you know, incest, molestation, those kind of things too. And it sounds like what you're experiencing is a somatic symptom. So somatic related to the body, where your body is just putting up a response. And I would say a very normal / protective response in that situation where it's functional for you. So, but to kind of address like, well, how do you work through that, or how do you get through that? So I am trained, you know, in couples work, but I'm also trained in trauma work. And the reason I decided to do both trainings is for that, is because I do find more often than not, there is sexual trauma in relationships. Yeah. And so I felt like I really need to be more well equipped to also deal with that side of things. So for my trauma approaches that I use, I actually utilize EMDR, which is eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So
Okay, what is that? That's
yeah.
no sense to me.
Yeah, I'll be happy to go into that. So basically what that is, it's a deeper type of therapy. Usually when I talk to couples, I'm using EFT, which is called emotionally focused couples therapy. And that style is cerebral in nature, meaning that we're using our prefrontal cortex, the thinking logical center of our brain. We're engaging in conversations similar to how we are all talking right now. That's the cognitive process. Mm-hmm. So when we do EMDR, we actually bypass the cognitive process that happens in our prefrontal cortex, and we go to the animal portion of our brain, which is
reptilian.
You got it. Yeah. So within the amygdala is where we really store all of our traumas, is where we store mostly even our somatic bodily experiences that have happened to us. And so by going and bypassing the talking part of our brain, we're able to start really resolving kind of the pain, the trauma, the body responses that come up with those types of experiences that people have had. So that's what I utilize personally when I'm working with a couple and I know that there's trauma. And so the way I work with the couple is I'll meet with them together as a couple, and then I may hold individual sessions for one or both of the parties as well to resolve those traumas. And once they feel safe enough, what I'll actually do and what I love to do is do EMDR in a couple setting where I actually will help the partner to learn how to regulate and soothe their partner who's experiencing this, where they're the ones administering, the tools of EMDR, and they're the ones that are then kind of helping their partner come through that process. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a really valid.
Sounds like something I need, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, like when I seek out my own therapy, I go to an EMDR therapist because I feel like, I have a lot of skill sets, I have a lot of tools, but I need someone who's going to go to my brain,
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'll do for you guys is at the end of this, I'll also send you an email with some different links. So there's a site where you can look for an EMDR therapist who's gone through the certification process. And those are going to be your highly skilled, highly trained therapists. And it's through the Darya website. So I will.
And we'll link everything for her as well on our website and our podcast.
Of course.
So that you guys can find it as well.
Yep.
Okay. Matt, do you want to ask her a question?
It would be off topic at this point, but I do have a question.
Okay. Sure. Let's do question, like back and forth so that we get all the random questions out.
I want to know then what... all right, first of all.
I'm already uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable already. So Matt and I have a very brother-sister relationship, so I get uncomfortable whenever we talk about sex with him because, I feel like he's my brother, like my older brother.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, good. Go. Continue, Matt.
I don't have sex anyway, so I don't understand what the problem is.
You will eventually.
No, I have. I had a good reign of terror in Japan.
No, I don't want to know. Oh, of course. I don't want to know.
But what is the church's view now, currently, on open marriages? Your churches, I mean.
Yeah. Well, honestly, obviously I can't speak for the church because I'm not representing.
What's your interpretation of it?
But my interpretation of it. Yeah. So I do believe in the church, so there's something called a family proclamation. That is an official document that the church has put out. And I think that does a really beautiful job kind of outlining the church's stance on family and relationship and marriage as well. So I think that would be, a really useful document to kind of go through. But in a nutshell, the church does believe in traditional marriage, right? It does believe in the concept of a man and a woman being married, basically for time and all eternity. So they do believe that in the afterlife, and they do believe when a couple is married, that they have the ability to take their marriage into the next life, which I think is a really cool concept.
I do too. I believe in that too. I do believe that when you have a marriage, you have a contract with that soul and you take it on to your next life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have my open ideas about what I want to do with my physical body. I love my partner emotionally, in a soul level, but I have other interests.
Yeah.
I'm lesbian. And I'm not a lesbian. I'm bisexual.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, where you have like that soul connection, that deep connection. And that's how I personally feel about it too. Like where, you know, you may have interactions with a person that you want to partner with, whereas where you have other interactions with people that you just find interesting, right? Or that can just be enriching your life in other ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but not to go too off topic. So so just to answer your question, Matt, like I do think it's very traditional view, you know, and it's for the sake, I think, of creation of family.
Yep.
I think that's, you know, why they hold that view, because if we look at like for the stability of children, it does feel, I think, in many people's eyes, safer, right, to be in a monogamous relationship that's committed for the rearing of children.
I can understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So now my question will be completely off Matt's. Guys, just get used to it. We're not the best at being on topic ever.
Well, us? Never.
So I've had this problem with previous relationships where my partner had, I don't want to say abused because that's not the proper word. He used, and I say he because it was specifically a male at this time, he used porn every day, multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said it's not an addiction. I forgot what you said it. What's it called?
Basically, there are two ways of looking at pornography usage, right? So we can look at it sometimes as an addiction, which I will say, I don't think there's like we
I'm
can't
getting
ever
uncomfortable. I don't know why.
I know, me too.
You're good. I'll stay with you guys.
No, yeah, keep going.
But like we can. So I think there is distinctions to be made. I do think there are situations, and I would say they're much more less frequent where it could be level of addiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It hindered on his physical feelings towards sex, and
Really?
so that he wouldn't ejaculate during normal sex. He would have to watch something and do it himself.
That's insanity.
It took him not masturbating for almost a year and a half.
Whoa.
Before. Yeah, it was bad. And now he no longer has interests. Like he doesn't have, like I have my specific kinks or interests that I would like to try, haven't done yet, but will eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And he just doesn't have any.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like, oh yeah, that's cool. I've seen it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. So there's like a lot kind of couched in that question. So
Yeah.
Okay, then let me ask a specific question. What can I, as a partner, what can you do to help that other partner get along, like move forward with their sexual relationship with you? And is there something that you could do to find more interest with them once they've seen it all?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. So, okay. So in terms of like what you can do, so I think I always like to start with whenever we're dealing with any like mutual partnership, which is what this is, right? We're talking about two distinctly different individuals. So I think there's often kind of the temptation to feel like, you know, we can in some way, shape, or form influence our partner, and sometimes we can, right? And sometimes we can't. So I think that's kind of something that I always like to throw out there, because I meet with a lot of people who, you know, come to me and want to kind of work with or change their partner. And sometimes they're ready and willing to be in that position, and sometimes they're not. So I think acknowledging where's the partner at and their willingness to do that work for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if a partner is willing, then there's a lot we can do, right? But just kind of putting that out there, like when it comes to, you know, any type of change, the control is always something that lies within ourselves, right? Where we have control over our own actions, our own words, and our secondary reactions to situations that arise in our life. And then our partner has that same opportunity to have that control in their life. So if you have a partner, though, that is willing to start exploring that arena a little bit more, kind of the first thought that came to mind as you mentioned this is, have you ever heard of the concept of sexual anorexia or sexual bulimia?
No.
It sounds sounds like you're about to hit pretty close to home.
Okay.
Wait, what is that?
Well, anorexia is not eating, and I'm excited.
Matt,
So.
I understand that. I know what anorexia means.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because I think that might be a factor. I could be off base, right? But it might be a factor here with this is sometimes when somebody is exposed to a lot of sexual content, and if they end up feeling like it's not in their best interest or they have some shame around it or whatever, what can sometimes happen is they may cut themselves off from their sexuality. If somebody does that, they enter a state of sexual anorexia where they, for whatever reason, are no longer interested in sex at all.
Whoa, dude.
Matt, I don't want to know, but I understand this is you.
Okay. I can also tell you the opposite can also be true. Sometimes when somebody does feel those extreme levels of shame, they may go to the other end of the pendulum and they may enter a self-indulgent behavior. And if they enter that state, then they turn into a sexual bulimic, where they gorge on their indulgence.
Wow.
Wait,
you paint quite a picture.
Don't do that, please, Matt.
I can't. No, I would never. No.
No, okay. But I feel like that will happen to you.
No, it won't. Don't worry.
You keep denying yourself sex.
No, I'm not denying myself sex. I've ran the numbers. It's not worth it.
So those are kind of the two extremes, yeah. And so I like to mention those just so you kind of have an understanding, like that sometimes, like, yeah, you can hit one of those extremes at times. And it's kind of like in life too, though. So if we're drawing the analogy to life, we can have black and white thinking where it's like the all or nothing mentality of I'm all in or I'm all out, right? And we do that with a lot of areas of our life because it brings us some kind of comfort to live in kind of these obsolete like terms, right?
Oh my God.
But the reality is if we want to grow and if we want to continue to develop, we want to actually seek to stay in the gray, which is the middle, right?
Yep.
So the gray is kind of that moderate middle where we wrestle within ourselves, where we live in discomfort, but it's the discomfort that then pushes us to grow and that pushes us to, find what works best for us and really discover who we are. And that applies sexually too, right? Where if we are able to stay in the discomfort of the middle, we can find within ourselves like how we fit in with our sexuality, which our sexuality is a gift to ourselves in essence that we then bring to someone else.
Very interesting. I have follow-ups.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll wait for Jackie first.
Well, no, that was my question. It's your question.
I know. Okay. All right.
I don't know how to respond to that because now I have you in my mind, and that's
not good. Get that out of there. So now, if you were not a member of the church, would you entertain the idea of opening like your current relationship? And also, is the church the only thing that would stop that or is stopping that, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. I would say for myself, where I'm at, so I've always been very actually in tune with my own sexuality, even from a young age. So like for me, it really hasn't been, like I said, I haven't really been too affected / hindered by any of like the societal cultural norms, I feel like, in that regard.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I kind of go more off of like, what is it that I would like to create in my life, right? Sure. And also like, what is it that I want to create in my relationships? And I'm not just talking about like my relationship with my husband.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about all my relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
You're married?
Mm-hmm. I am married. We've been married for about 7 years.
I didn't want to ask.
You're good. You're good. Yeah. So no, I think that's a good question because yeah. So within my marriage, like I do value that traditional belief system, but I think for me, like it's also stages, right? It's kind of like what stage of life am I in? Where am I at in relation to myself? there's a belief that, about every 7 years we go through a transformation as an individual.
New taste buds.
Yeah. And I believe in that. I do, because I've seen it in myself where it's like, I'm like a completely different person now than I was 7 years ago.
Yep.
Your cells don't actually regenerate every 7 years, just to get that debunked out of everyone's head.
To me, I look at it more like it's just a change, a transformation, maybe even a renaissance, right? So a renaissance is kind of a rebirth of ourself.
Bunch of hipsters opened up Portland in your brain.
There you go. There you go. So for myself, I really find a lot of goodness in the way that our relationship is structured currently. And I'm enjoying it. Like, I'm enjoying the closeness, the intimacy that we have. I will say it's not always been that way. Like, it's something that we've both had to work towards, something we've both had to have things that we've overcome in the process. Yeah. But we're at a point where now it is working really well for us. And we're also, hoping to soon integrate children into our relationship. So I feel like the stability.
I don't recommend.
You don't recommend.
Well, your child is slapping you in the face currently to wake you up.
No. I love my child. I don't recommend pregnancy.
Yeah, I hear you.
Pregnancy fucking sucks. Give it to the man. Turn him into a seahorse.
How bad is it?
Dude, I almost died. Told you this so many times.
I know that. I just mean generally for most people.
Most people, it's uncomfortable. You're a whale.
I'm a whale? Is that a
you're a living arboretum of a human, an alien, literally growing inside of you, and you have to maintain your life, your job, your body. Like, you have to maintain so much as a woman, and you're still held at the same expectations even while you're pregnant. And if you do not stand at that expectations, then like you lose hours at your job, or your job looks at you as like disposable. Like it goes into like so much more. But yeah, not recommend.
That's gotta suck.
Good.
Sorry, Darya.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
No,
we're all over the place generally.
I think I wanted to address one of the questions that I saw on your list there, just about like when would be a good time, right, for a couple to come in for sex therapy. I think that one would be a good one maybe to go to if you guys are okay with that.
Let's do that.
Isn't therapy preventative, not a fixer-upper?
Yeah. So I love that you said that, because yes, that's the way I went with it in my brain. So let me give you like the short answer and the long answer. So the short answer is honestly pretty much any time is appropriate for a couple to come in for sex therapy. Yeah. And Jackie, yes. So what you're saying, like, I actually love working with couples who are either in really new relationships, or I have also worked like in the context of couples who are trying to, save sex for when they're married as well. So I do premarital counseling as well with those couples. But
that's gotta be weird.
It's actually really cool because we do explore like the sexuality, we explore like all of that prior to marriage. And, what they tell me is like afterwards, like they are just much more comfortable going into that experience.
Exactly. Like imagine you meeting someone and you get to talk about your preferences or the things you haven't done or the things you're looking to do before you even get to the sex part. That sounds amazing to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. No, it can be amazing. Absolutely. And so like, it just sets them up for success. Right. And so there's nothing like doing the preventative work and then going into a marriage really strong and self-assured in those parts, especially in sexuality.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening this far. And I didn't think you'd make it. We appreciate it very much. Just if you could do us a favor and go find us anywhere and follow us, rate, subscribe.
We'll be under the tree meditating.
Yes.
Go find us.
I will have a rainbow coming out of my head.
I was hoping you would say ass.
I will have a rainbow coming out of my ass.
Like a unicorn.
Yeah, like, wait, what? We're at Twitter, Magic for Humans, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. The link is through the website on that one, which is magicforhumans.com as well. Oh, we have a second Instagram, which is Magic for Humans, the number 4, and then with an S.
Like, comment on all our pictures, videos, and download And give us stars on the iTunes, please. The iTunes.
Yes, especially the iTunes. But anywhere you get your podcasts or podcarts, rate, subscribe, and comment, please. We will read the positive comments on air.
Ooh, that's nice.
We'll read the negative ones too, because it'll be fun. Don't leave negative ones, though.
If anyone leaves us a 1-star rating, I will go and murder you in your sleep, in your dreams, and then you'll wake up and be murdered again every time you go to bed.
You'll be living the same day over and over. It's like,
but you're not sure if you're awake or asleep.
It's deja vu. And please feel free to go to the website and send in any art. Music is great. Drawings are great.
And
jokes are great.
That you find that inspire you from our podcast, we will gladly look at it, post it, or even promote you as well. So thank you very much for any artwork that's sent in.
Yes, thank you very much. Go to the website, check out our gallery there where we're going to have, featured artists and featured selected art. Also on the website, we do have Venmo and PayPal if you want to support us to get this, project off the ground.
Way. Yes.
It really does. Our editor isn't cheap and I talk a lot. Help. Back to the show. I have a confession. Mm-hmm. This whole time we've been talking, I've been picturing Jodi Arias. Do you remember that case?
Who's Jodi Arias?
It was a huge trial in Arizona a few years ago.
Dude, stop. Get on topic.
No, she was a Mormon who was having premarital sex and ended up murdering the guy she was sleeping with.
Oh, wow.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, she stabbed him like 47 times or something.
Oh, she was angry.
Oh, she was angry.
That was so personal. Stabbing a person face to face is very personal.
My two goals in life were to not be stabbed and not be on YouTube. That's it. That was my whole life dream.
You failed the first one.
I did fail the first one, but it was for you, so you should be thankful.
I am
now,
thankful.
Good. So, sorry. Didn't mean to get you out.
No worries.
I had to say it.
You're good. Well, I want to, so let's go to some other areas, like why else would couples come in, right? So yes, preventative, Jackie, absolutely. Other ones are just maybe couples who've been together for many years who don't feel a spark, right? Couples who are changing in their levels of desire. I see that happen all the time where maybe one partner used to be the high desire spouse and then they end up being the low desire spouse. And that's a difficult change to navigate. Effects of aging, right? Changes in function or even experiencing symptoms of some sexual dysfunction can start to happen as we age.
Oh, damn. But I thought the peak for women were in their 30s or 40s.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it is. So we do. We peak around 35, 40. That's kind of like where we start. And actually, not to make you guys too uncomfortable, but like the earlier stages too, like especially after empty nesting stage are really great stages for a lot of couples.
Is that you mean after way past 40 generally?
Yeah,
generally
way
speaking.
past 40. Yeah.
Got it. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I heard something about that.
Mm-hmm. So it's great for those couples as well. Like we've already mentioned, it's definitely something that I think would be important to do if there's any kind of trauma around sexuality. Also with any kind of shame that stems from sexuality. I work with a lot of people who have what we kind of call the good girl or the good boy syndrome, right? Where they go into a sexual relationship and not really being able to connect in that way because they've been told it's bad all their life. And then all of a sudden it's something they can do all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then also, of course, couples who want to explore alternative lifestyles, kind of like we started talking about, when couples are interested in opening up marriages and things like that, having a therapist there to kind of help navigate that can be really useful, actually, too.
So someone that's new to that, someone that's new to opening their marriage, what would be your advice for someone that wasn't open to it at first,
mm-hmm.
but have come around to the idea and they're afraid of the jealousy or interacting with the same sex or and the partner and how they'd feel about that? I know there's not that much stigma with girl and girl, but there is a lot of stigma with boy and boy, and you in a typical male to female marriage.
Well, yeah. So no, there's a lot to be said about that. I would say even when you're new to it, so these types of topics even come up with what we were talking about earlier, like even comes up with pornography usage sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like being confronted by our own insecurities when we step into that arena, right? And we have to kind of go through the process of being comfortable with the discomfort of what it means that, first of all, our partner is capable of arousal with other people, right? And that they're not always going to be like validating us, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's something like each couple, if that's something they even want to consider, they have to explore and kind of face those parts of themselves. And so in these types of situations, like what I would recommend is just a very high level of communication, just very high level in terms of, checking in frequently with your partner, being able to have those discussions when discomfort arises, doing it in a productive way where each of you are able to really share like your experience and your feelings, but doing it in a way where you're not raising defenses in your partner, right? Where it's not accusatory, where it's not like in a labeling, shaming sense, but more so from just a very personal, like experiential sense.
I feel like passive aggression could play a big role in derailing something like this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Like one of the things that Grace and I learned was learning how to accept the other's emotion, like make sure that they felt heard enough before they gave their opinion.
Yeah.
And then making sure that you don't tell the other person that they're not right to feel that, instead of being, it's just hard. I don't know. It's been hard doing that with my husband, and but I've been practicing with it since we started getting married. He was my first healthy relationship that I've ever had. So
yeah, good. So you raised some great points in terms of like helping your partner and yourself feel heard and seen and understood, right, before you really proceed. And then you also talked about, validation of their point of view and their emotion rather than invalidating those points of view. So I think, that's really good.
Good.
Matt, your question?
Sure. I guess we'll stay on open marriage because that would just be easier. So if, as far as you've noticed, or I guess experienced through being a sex therapist, have you found that open marriages or open relationships tend to fail on a larger scale than monogamous ones?
Oh, thank you, Matt. That makes me feel great.
No, I'm sorry. It's something I've noticed in my personal life that everyone I've known in an open relationship has lost it.
But that's also depending on how they.
Of course, it's depending on a lot of things.
Partner.
That's why I said in your experience.
Yeah. So, I'll speak to that. And I think that piggybacks off of what we were just talking about.
Communication.
Exactly. Yeah. Communication, right? I think it doesn't matter if it's an open or closed marriage in terms of like where relationship satisfaction is at. It's more about like what kind of quality of relationship are those people having, right?
Good, probably.
Yeah. So if you're having a high quality relationship with a lot of communication, I could actually see the potential for those types of relationships being stronger in some ways, because you are open to the reality and allowing yourself to know your partner on a different level, right? You're allowing yourself to know them while also confronting like those parts of yourself that are uncomfortable or those parts of yourself that are insecure. Yeah. So I can see that being kind of growth expanding in that sense. What I will tell you is like I have worked with couples who've had those types of arrangements, and just from observation, like one thing that I've seen is sometimes it's something they do long term, sometimes it's something they incorporate as a phase within their own growth as a couple. So I've seen that where, maybe they go through that phase, they really enjoy what they learn in that phase, and then I've had them go back to choosing monogamy at some point, whether it's just because they feel like they've been able to learn whatever they wanted to from that experience, or because they've been able to kind of create what they wanted within the partnership that was able to meet those needs. So I've seen that. Or I've seen the ones where it is more long-term and they stay engaged in that, and they're both continually working through what comes up with that.
So you have seen a large amount of success in open relationships.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's just my friends are idiots.
No, it's not that they're idiots.
No, it's that they don't communicate
maybe
well.
they needed a third party to help them communicate.
Probably.
Some people
crazy,
do
yeah.
need that.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, I think they are like the amount of work needed in that type of a relationship is a higher level, right? Like it does take a higher level of, again, a strong relationship to self, and then a strong commitment to communicating with your partner to make that really function well.
Okay.
Interesting.
So my next question is going to be off topic from the open relationship thing, but within relationships, and this is also one of my previous relationships, and it really bothered me and it still affects me in my marriage, is I had a partner who would, at first it was great, the honeymoon stage, whatever.
Yeah.
A couple months into our relationship, I started getting denied sexually. Denied as in like told no, or they weren't comfortable, or like everyone has a right to say no.
Yeah.
Everyone does. But when it happens a lot, my passion to want to have sex after a while went down. Like I just didn't want to because I kept getting denied. And his reasonings were fine. I understood why he felt that way. And even though I communicated to him every single time, like how I felt or what I needed, it never seemed to change. And then eventually my relationship just kind of like fizzled out sexually. What is something that you would recommend to someone else that's going through this? How to deal with that? And is there something that you could do as a partner to help your other partner get along or like go forward with in advancing their sexual relationship? I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And it kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with what we were talking about before in terms of, I mean, the reality is like,
are they willing to change?
Yeah, are they willing to change? And it is going to be their choice, right? Whether they would like to or not. But if you have willingness, there's a lot that can be done. I would be curious to know in an instance like that, like, why did it go from, having a sexual relationship to not, right? Or kind of what's driving that?
It was my health. My health got in my way. Anytime I did have sex, because of the type of problems I had physically, which I had ovarian at the time, and it hurt sometimes. Sometimes it'd be fine during, and then after I'd be in a lot of pain, or I would bleed, or like there would be issues, and that kind of scared him away. But then even after everything got better, he just didn't want to be with me. And I just didn't know how to fix it. So,
okay.
And that still affects me. Like anytime my husband will tell me no now, I'm like, oh no, he's going to do the same thing as my other partner or so on.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you. I mean, for sharing that in terms of like, just helping me kind of see, understand, also again, like, sorry you went through an experience like that. Cause like you're saying, like it can stay with you and it can affect you even in today. Right. So, yeah. So what I had wanted to kind of look at with that. So yeah, that makes sense to me. So it sounds like this particular partner may have been interested in providing pleasure, right? And then maybe the causation of pain was something that was not within their erotic blueprint. Like there are people who obviously are into maybe those kinds of things where like an element of pain can be arousing for them. But it sounds like there's also on the other end of the spectrum, people for who causing pain is not arousing to them and maybe in some way makes them feel a certain way maybe they don't like, So I would want to, obviously don't have the other person with us, but that's what I would want to explore and see, like, what was the meaning frame that they associated with causing pain to their partner, right? What did that tell them about themselves, or what is the part of themselves they didn't want to confront in order to be able to process that and work through that?
I think when I communicated very well with this partner, and in the end, like, it just,
Mm-hmm.
but his thing, he was abused as a child as well, sexually, by a family member.
Mm-hmm.
And he never addressed it. He told me about it. He cried about it once, and that was the end. Like, we never talked about it again. He's not willing to talk about it. And then he still has a relationship with this person after. So
yeah,
it was part of that. That was something that did bother him when it came to that. But it just didn't seem to fix after. Like, I just don't know.
You mean it didn't seem to fix after the two of you?
Like, even if we talked about it, even if we like tried to fix it, it just didn't fix.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like after you guys talked about it, then there was a point where you said that after it wasn't addressed so much anymore. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm thinking, and again, could be off base, it almost sounds like maybe a vulnerability hangover. So sometimes we have these moments where we connect with either our partner or even a stranger, right? Doesn't matter who, but very deeply.
Whoa.
To the point where we feel so open, so exposed, so raw and vulnerable, that in the following interactions that we have with that person, there's a part of us that actually puts up a wall and retreats, in a sense, and doesn't want to talk about that anymore or address it anymore. And we start to sense a distance that kind of happens from those very deep conversations sometimes. And it sounds like, in this instance, maybe that was part of it, and maybe part of it too, again, is just, at what point does the trauma become so large that without addressing it, it starts to impact the quality of life? Yeah. And that it sounds like that's part of it too, is where it definitely may have needed some professional attention at that point.
Yeah.
I want to know how two non-native English speakers are beating me in English.
Yeah, I can't even tell that she's not a native English.
I cannot pick
You
out
can
a
kind of
single
tell
word.
with me.
Yes. When you say recognize, that's it.
That word is hard.
It is a hard word.
So Jackie, what's your background? I'm just so curious now.
I'm Italian Colombian. Those are my first two languages, and then English is my third, and then I have 3 other languages that I speak, not consistently, but enough to like maintain. But English is so hard.
Yeah, it is.
I think if I didn't have Grammarly on, and this should be an ad for our podcast, if I didn't have Grammarly in my emails, oh gosh.
Oh, I love Grammarly.
It's so bad for everyone, because my English is just grammatically, my spelling is just horrible. I don't know.
I use too many commas.
Really? I don't use commas. I have to enter them after the fact.
I'm sure I do all the weird things when I write too. So yeah.
No, you sound like you're born here for sure.
Yeah, no, she does. She sounds amazing.
Thank you, guys.
I'm imagining her as this like beautiful brunette.
I bet she's blonde.
I know how she looks. No, she's
actually a brunette, so you got it.
She's a brunette. She sounds like a pretty brunette. Now I need to know a picture. I need to know how
ask her what her age is, because I'm not allowed to.
Why not?
You guys can't ask girls what their age are, apparently.
That's dumb. I'm just gonna imagine she's around your age.
I think 30.
She's
28.
a lot more. Yeah, I think 28 or 30.
Oh, you guys are so nice. I'm 32.
Oh, okay. Y'all are the same age.
I'm 33. Perfect.
So very close in age, yeah.
I'm 23.
If you guys are okay with it, there's one more concept I think would be really cool just to share that would be like neat to explore.
Okay.
So this is another resource for kind of our listeners, but I'm a really big fan also of Esther Perell. So I don't know if you've heard her, but
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So Esther Perell is also a sex therapist. She is originally from Israel, has some really interesting views, and she has a practice in New York. And she's written a couple books that I really do think are like revolutionary that they love.
Can you say those books out loud so I can
absolutely.
Read it?
So the first of the books that I'm going to share a little excerpt from actually is called Mating in Captivity. Okay.
Wait, was she She wasn't in a Holocaust survivor, was she?
Her parents were.
Oh yeah,
God.
that's what I thought.
Her parents were. And she talks about them in this book, actually.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yes. And then her second book, that is a more recent one that came out, that is just incredible as well, is called The State of Affairs.
Whoa.
State of Affairs.
The State of Affairs. So both of those books, really will open up your eyes in terms of like what it means to be human, what it means to be sexual, and really what it means to have a combination of both security and spontaneity and excitement in our life. So really incredible work. I wanted to just read a little bit from the intro so you guys can kind of see this concept that I wanted to present.
Please.
Okay, great. So the concept is basically that we as human beings crave both safety and security in our relationships, but also excitement, which is captured in her book through the usage of the word eroticism. So just notice this in her intro. She talks about we all share a fundamental need for security, which propels us toward committed relationships in the first place. But we have an equally strong need for adventure and excitement. Modern romance promises that it's possible to meet these two distinct sets of needs in one place. Still, I'm not convinced. Today, we turn to one person to provide what an entire village once did, a sense of grounding, meaning, and continuity. At the same time, we expect our committed relationships to be romantic as well as emotionally and sexually fulfilling. Is it any wonder that so many relationships crumble under the weight of it all? It's hard to generate excitement, anticipation, and lust with the same person you look to for comfort and stability. But it's not impossible. I invite you to think about ways you might introduce risk to safety, mystery to the familiar, and novelty to the enduring.
I like that.
It's beautiful.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I went to open marriages, because I don't feel like it's fair to a person to try to get all those things from them and change them if they're not capable of giving it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like I should leave the person I'm with just because they're not able to provide that if I still love them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I can see why, there's the draw with that, because it's like you have these parts, right, that are being fulfilled with this person. And yet there's these other parts that are also, wanting fulfillment, wanting that longing of, what isn't there. Mm-hmm.
I have 2 questions for you, Jackie, later, or even on this episode would be great. But
You can ask now.
it seems like it's possible. Maybe there is like that perfect person for you out there. Do you think that it's possible, or do you think that it is like as great as you're ever going to find, and so you're there for?
I think Grayson is my perfect person on a partnership level. I think we work very well together. I think we're raising a child perfectly. Well, not perfectly. We have
She's fucking adorable. I'll say that.
She's freaking adorable. But in a partnership level, in a relationship level, he's my perfect person.
That's great.
Obviously, there are things that I need from him that he's not ready or able to give me, and that's okay. And he's okay with me finding it elsewhere. But as long as I'm telling him, I'm communicating with him, and he's happy, like, we're good.
Super healthy. I think.
Oh, thanks.
Maybe
let's ask the doctor. Is that healthy?
Well, no, yeah, I absolutely feel like it sounds like, you've been able to navigate that relationship really well in terms of like discussing those points, bringing attention to your wants and needs in the relationship, which I think is a very like high authenticity, strong position to take in a relationship. Mm-hmm.
I decided right before, like a week before I met Grayson, that's what I decided I wanted out of a relationship. So I'm trying really hard. Obviously, it doesn't always work. We still get into our spiffs or whatever, and we still have bad days. But at the end of the day, we'll just try a different form of communicating with each other.
Yeah.
Has he ever voiced a jealousy type aspect?
He hasn't found anyone in my life that he found jealous. As of now, he views the other people I'm interested in as a certain type of, like, he is my person, right? And he's a personality trait that fits my crush, the crush that I was telling you about before the podcast.
Yeah.
Right. But then my other preferences when it comes to men are submissive and men that will do anything for me without asking anything of me. And it's a one-sided type relationship, but it works for me. And the guys that I'm with enjoy that type of relationship as well. They like providing for me instead of asking from me.
Like a queen bee.
Yes. And I tend to gravitate to those types of guys that want to provide certain things for me. And then they receive my attention, my quality time, or whatever they're wanting from me. But those are the type of relationships I tend to get with outside of Grayson. And Grayson is not that. If that makes sense. It's a preference, a sexual preference. Outside of sexuality, it's also a preference that I have within certain relationships. Like, I wouldn't actually marry one of those guys, but I enjoy having them around. That sounds so bad. I'm sorry, Darya.
It doesn't sound that bad.
Oh.
You know.
Okay.
No. And that's actually that concept that you're mentioning is in the book. So.
Wait, really?
It is. Yes.
Oh, what's it called? If I had a word to what I feel, that would be amazing. What is it called?
It's the book Mating in Captivity. So yeah.
But what's that idea called? Like having a guy that provides certain type of love or things or attention for you, but you don't really provide much to them, but they still enjoy it. What is that?
Yeah. I mean, you may have to coin your own concept around that, it sounds like, which would be really cool. But I think it goes back to that idea of there's the safety and stability piece, right? Mm-hmm. Where it sounds there's a comfort in that. There's a comfort in being provided for, being taken care of in that way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there's obviously the opposite of that maybe is found in other aspects where you get the excitement piece. Yeah. But yeah. I don't know, maybe even just the simple term of almost a caretaker, yeah, in that sense, it's so comfortable. So more like a flannel nightgown, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Are those your only questions, Matt?
It says Jackie's bitches is what we should call the your theory.
Yes.
I do have more questions, not for you though. It's for the doctor or the therapist.
Yeah, ask the doctor.
You a doctor? No, it doesn't matter.
She's a doctor now.
That's true. The sex doctor. Yeah.
That's what she is in my phone, actually.
Oh my God.
Well, Danny is the witch doctor.
Oh my God. I have her as the the nicest witch of the West or the Southwest.
Oh, that's horrible.
No, because it's Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, no, I understand the concept.
She's great. Hi, Danny. So
ask her questions.
No, I'm going to. My question is so after, I don't know how much of the show you got around to. You said you listened to a few episodes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, by the way. Did you...
Are we interesting enough?
No.
Definitely.
It's a good story, if nothing else, I suppose. Do you think that, or do you have any idea what happened to me, kind of in a nutshell?
Please fix me. That's what you just asked her. Hey, can you fix me?
No. I just want to know if you understand, what led to me not, caring about dating at all for a few years.
Well, I mean, I would say that's a super complicated question.
I'm sure it is.
Right. I would need to have listened to every episode. Probably no, just kidding.
It's going to take probably 50 more episodes to get to the bottom of that one. But
right, yeah. So
it's a super high level.
Yeah, no. I mean, let me say it like this. If I was working with someone, I would want to do a very in-depth assessment, right? I would want to ask about family of origin. I would want to ask about, just relational history in general. I would want to ask about who were people in your life that you were close to, the kind of the people you could turn to when you had problems in your life.
That one.
Yeah.
No, he seriously, and this is just as a friend. Now he has friends that he can turn to that have the best interest in him. But for the most part, he's been used most of his life.
Okay.
Because he always had to cater. Matt, don't get mad at me, but he always had to cater his mom's
This is
emotions.
accurate. It's true.
And he's finally learning how to go out of that and set boundaries. But for the most part,
yeah, it's been a rough 2 weeks. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go visit you. Where are you?
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe Matt and I will go in for sex therapy together. Non-couple sex therapy.
Maybe she can help us with our relationship, though.
That's a normal therapist, Matt. Normal therapist. We're not physically having sex with each other.
That's true.
I don't want to know your kinks, please.
I don't have any, so let's move forward, though.
Well, let me give you something, though, that might help give you just some food for thought to kind of think about your own processing, if that would be helpful, yeah?
Sure. And Jackie, you nailed it, by the way.
I've been watching you for a while. I just don't like saying it out loud.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, so first and foremost, like, I think the thought that kind of comes to mind is I do a lot of work with what's called attachment theory. So attachment theory is...
I told you to listen to this.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Sorry, I got excited. Yeah, I've been telling both Danny and him to learn about attachment theory.
Attachment theory, awesome. I encourage everyone to learn about it. On that note, let me share a couple books for people who want to maybe learn more about that. There's the book called Attached. Mm-hmm. It's got some red letters on the cover, white book. That's really good on that. As well as the book Hold Me Tight, which is more specific to couples.
Okay.
Okay, so those are a couple that are really great to learn more about attachment theory. But Matt, getting back to like where I'm going with this, when we are young, like we have instinctively a desire to find attachment in our life. When we're born into this world, we are by nature social creatures. We, long for connection. We long for some kind of level of interaction with our caretaker. Yeah. And preferably, of course, a high level of interaction where they're attuned to us and attentive to our needs. And so from this, there are different attachment styles that develop throughout our childhood and into our adulthood as well. I'm just going to name those for you guys, and I'll just kind of go over some of the hallmarks of the different styles so you can see what you might resonate with.
The love languages. Yeah, that sounds good. Sorry,
okay.
Thank you.
No, you're good. Yeah, love languages, we'll play into that as well, but this is a little bit just on a deeper level. So the attachment styles are secure attachment, anxious attachment, an avoidant dismissive attachment, and an avoidant fearful attachment. So the secure attachment is kind of the goal. It's kind of where we all want to be, and it's also very socially promoting. So they estimate that about 50% of the population actually falls into a secure attachment because, again, it promotes society. The hallmarks of a secure attachment is that it's fairly easy to trust people. The person is generally attuned to their emotions and kind of discern what's happening for them. They can communicate their upsets directly, and they tend to lead with cooperative and flexible behaviors in their relationships. That's kind of the hallmarks of secure relationship.
I don't think I've ever had one of those.
Yeah.
And this kind of attachment comes from having a highly responsive parent who is attuned to the child's needs and emotional well-being as well as physical provision. The next style is the anxious style. So an anxious attachment, it kind of comes from having a parent who is not always reliable. Maybe sometimes they are, maybe sometimes they're not. So it's an ambiguous kind of relationship. So these traits come with, a person having a very sensitive nervous system. They kind of go into fight or flight very quickly. They may struggle communicating their needs directly, and they may even tend to act out when they're triggered. So acting out behaviors are going to be different for children and adults. For children, it might be running away from home, or actually even cutting can sometimes fall into this category. Whereas for adults, it might be more like trying to make a partner jealous, or trying to leave the home, but actually wanting them to follow them and chase them. So there's different behaviors that might come up with that. And then beneath that, you have two different types of avoidant. So avoidant dismissive, this comes from actually kind of what you're talking about a little bit there, Jackie, in terms of like his relationship with mom, where if we have to be a caretaker to our parent, we often may develop this style. And notice what the hallmarks are here. They downplay the importance of relationships. Being extremely self-reliant. These people are actually usually extremely competent and really do well in their employment, find a lot of satisfaction.
This is ringing a bell.
Is it ringing a bell? Yeah. Yeah. And so finding satisfaction, providing for yourself and being resilient. What's interesting though, that I really love about kind of this style is it can become more vulnerable when there's a big crisis. So what that means is, like, let's say even the crises of like this year, right? There's a lot that's been going on this year. A lot of people who fit the avoidant dismissive style often will seek out people who are helpless or who are on the fringes of society. And they kind of want to protect the vulnerable. They want to lend their strength to those who they see as needing it. So it's a very interesting thing when in general they downplay the importance of relationships, but when they find vulnerability in people, they tend to actually be a huge ally to those people.
And what was the name of this style, this third one?
This is avoidant dismissive. Mm-hmm.
I've told you this, Matt, but I'm glad a professional is telling you this.
Well, I'm not going to listen to, you're 10 years younger than me. Come on. I remember,
So?
I wouldn't get along with 23-year-old me.
Hey, I'm an awesome 23-year-old. I'm about to be 24 in 2 days.
You're gonna be an amazing 24-year-old. I'll tell you what.
Well, thank you. I'm only 2 days away.
And just so you have it too, the last style on here is avoidant fearful. So very anxious, like kind of related to the anxious style. So I'll just go through the hallmarks real quick on that. So they're more dependent in their relationships than avoidant. They can be strongly having fears of rejection, having low self-esteem, and having very high anxiety in their relationships. That's because
that used to be me. Well, still me. Still working on it.
Not really.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, typically that's them seeking connection, seeking closeness, and fearing one of our big abandonment fears, right? Like it's an attachment fear. We really don't want to feel like we're going to be in a state of isolation. Because isolation, traditionally, if we were in small societies or little villages, has meant not being able to survive, right?
Oh, yeah.
And historically, yes, I guess, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I do kind of enjoy, though, being like, I don't know, it used to be like a inside joke, but it used to be that we would say like, I just want to be alone by my fucking self. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And it kind of is true. Like, I enjoy being left alone physically. Yeah. However, I do need people to listen to me vocally.
Oh, you need constant validation.
Constant validation vocally. But I don't need to see anybody ever.
Yeah, physically. Yeah. Well, and there's a lot that plays into that too, as far as like, you know, there's personality types, there's what's the level of extroversion to introversion. So there's a lot of factors that come to.
So what she's saying is you need years and years of therapy to figure this out.
We're well aware of this. We all do.
Which is cool. The idea that now in society is accepted to go to therapy and figure out yourself before it gets to a point where you're damaging other people.
Yeah. Or even if you're already in a state of damaging other people, like taking accountability in that part of your life and working to be a better self.
I mean, that makes sense.
Any other questions, Matt? Because we could go on for like hours. I have so many questions, but we're hitting our about an hour and a half mark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe we should wrap here then. So,
okay.
Darya, do you want to just go ahead and plug everything you want to, or say everything you want to about how people can reach out to you or get in touch with you, if at all?
Great. Yeah, thank you. So I'm most active just on my social platform. So if they want to reach out to me, they can just look up my Instagram, and it's windsofchange_counseling.
Okay. And anything else? Any other socials?
So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's going to be the best way. On there, I have links to my website, and I always provide also a free 15-minute consultation. So for me, it's always really important that a therapist and a client are a good fit for each other. So they can simply just go on there, they can click the link and schedule that, and then we can have that call. And
Well, that's nice. I wish my therapist did that, because sometimes I hated. Well, I was on mandatory therapy. I don't know if you had to do this, Matt, but when I was a kid, I was on mandatory therapy because I was a high-risk child.
Nope.
Lucky. And they never let me choose, which didn't help me at all.
Yeah.
All the damage I did was inwardly focused.
And all they did was listen to me and not actually help me how to deal with my parents. So.
Oh, yeah, they didn't help me at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you already know, and it can confirm that the fit is extremely important.
For sure.
So yeah, so that's why I always offer that, and that way they can see. And honestly, I've met with people, and sometimes we're not a good fit. And what I do is I provide some nice quality referrals for them so that they can find the right person for them.
Oh, they're so nice. Well, thank you very much for being on our podcast, and thank you for all the questions, randomness that you've heard today.
Well, thank you for having.
Thank you very much. And we'll post everything that she's said so far, all the books that she's recommended, her website, and any other questions that we might have asked her offline that she responded to. We'll also add that to our spiels of stuff.
Thank you, Darya.
Well, I appreciate you guys too, for having me on here. And, I always want to kind of value, whenever somebody is bold enough to ask for something like this. I think it's a really brave thing. So,
well, thank you.
It.
I'm.
And if you ever want to come on again, we welcome you with open arms.
Open invite any day.
All right, guys. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Darya.
I really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.